we could be alone. Between city lights, we don't have to hide. I wanna go, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in no secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? I can't understand why we can't hold hands, but they don't know what we have is real love. Aren't you sick and tired of having to hide? I know a place, do you wanna follow? There's something in the air, I can't explain it, but it's there. Ain't nobody gonna find us in no secret love affair. I don't wanna have to hide no more, it shouldn't be unfair. I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow? Do you wanna follow? Baby, do you wanna follow? Come with me, do you wanna follow? Baby, can't you see that? I wanna go, and I wanna know, do you wanna follow?
That's weird. The music is just getting quieter and quieter. Yeah, okay. Whee! Music is just getting quieter and quieter. Oh no. Okay. Whee! Okay, we're having some feedback. Oh, there's this problem. All right. Hello, Joshua Bardwell here. And you're going to learn something today. I see that the live stream is named incorrectly. Hold on. What's today? September 22nd. Let me just fix that real quick so nobody is confused. Shit. The mic isn't muted. Wait. Nope. The mic's on. Catch up. You guys caught up yet? Right? Naked Pilot, thank you for the power loop. No, it's not muted. It really isn't. I'm really sure it's not. Okay, thank you. We're caught up now. Yeah, see, I tried to start with something. I want to show you guys. That power loop through the fence, that was exactly the whole reason I wanted to show you guys that clip. Comrade, I do copy paste. When I create the new live streams every week, I copy paste the live stream. Just so I don't have to redo all the configuration information about the live stream. So yes, but now the date on the live stream is updated. It is September 22nd. Hello, everybody. And it's time for my Q&A live stream. So, but as always, we're going to start the Q&A live stream with a little bit of kind of news of the day. And where I want to start today is... No, FPV Lovecraft. Bite Frost is not out. Nice try there. How about we go... Bite Frost is not out, but that is where we're going to start our stream today, with some discussion of Bite Frost, because there is some... Is it leaked? Is it official? I don't know. But where did I save that? Oh, here it is. Here it is. Check this out. This is some leaked test footage of Fatshark Bite Frost, and it is making the rounds. Everybody is looking at it. In case you don't know, Fatshark Bite Frost is Fatshark's digital high-def competitor to DJI. And when DJI first released their goggles, Fatshark was like, "Hey, wait, we have something in the works too." And so this came out, and everybody's talking about it. And let's just have a look at what we've got here. 507, what did Fatshark say on the RC Group's thread? One thing that's noticeable about this is this doesn't look like high def. I mean, I don't know what the actual resolution is. It certainly looks very good, but this could be a standard def camera, and that is something to actually talk about. So Bite Frost is supposed to support high def cameras, yes, but also standard def cameras. So one of the things I've always said is I don't need high def. If I could just have a rock solid digital standard def link, I'd be happier. And it seems like Bite Frost is trying to deliver on that, because like, imagine that you could get like long range and rock solid picture quality out of a standard def camera. I mean, that's a step in the right direction. It's also interesting. Let's just restart this here. No, Linus, we're not going to show Linus's video. It's interesting to see how it's breaking up. You can see a little bit of scattering in the picture. One of the things that Bite Frost has going for it, people are saying it's not digital. It's actually high definition or high quality MIMO analog. I don't know what they're actually doing under the hood. But the way it breaks up, it doesn't have that kind of digital break. You can see the little scattering here on screen. It has a more analog style breakup. So, I gotta say, like when the DJI system came out and I tried it, I was like, holy crap, this is legitimately good. That doesn't mean that there's not room for other people to come in. And I really like, and I have said, and I still believe, that it's going to be very hard to beat DJI at their own game for reasons but I really like that Fatshark is coming at it from a different angle. The ability to use your existing goggles, massive. The ability to not have to buy an expensive proprietary camera, massive. The ability to use existing standard def cameras if that's what you prefer to do, while still having an upgraded wireless link, massive. I like it. It's similar to what I've said about the TBS Fusion. Okay, it is RR123RR says it is digital. It is digital. Okay. Then again, Comrade says it's not native HD. It's actually analog. Okay, so no one knows. It's similar to what I've said about the TBS Fusion module, which more about that in a minute. The TBS Fusion receiver module may not be the absolute best in terms of RF range, right? When you put it head-to-head against the rapid fire, the Fusion will have more breakup, for example, less range. But the ability, for example, they are finishing right now a feature with the TBS Fusion where you can access the whole Crossfire menu for your module over the Wi-Fi that's built into the Fusion module and built into your Crossfire module. So instead of having to like turn your radio over and get at your Crossfire module, you'll be able to just take your goggles off and get at your Crossfire module. That, for some people, they won't care. But for some people, that's going to be a killer feature. That means that even if the range maybe is not the absolute best, it still makes Fusion the right product for them to buy. And I like to see Fatshark, when you try and beat somebody at their own game, like Sun Tzu, right? The Art of War. I'm sure Sun Tzu said something like, if you try and beat the guy at his own game, you're at a disadvantage. You have to make them play your game. You have to find the things you can do that they're not willing to do. DJI, Not going to put an analog receiver in their goggles. DJI says, screw analog, screw standard definition, DJI forever. And Fatshark goes, well, actually. So, Bite Frost, very, very interested to see where this goes. Abi Weltig left my Crossfire on without an antenna at 500 milliwatts. How can I test to see if it's okay? Abi, it's probably okay. How long was it left on? All TBS stuff is rated to be left on without antenna for like at least 30 minutes. I saw a table once upon a time. Depending on the exact gear you've got, it's between 30 minutes and several hours and all night and forever. You probably didn't damage it. You're probably fine. License to Drive asks, is that why there's a Wi-Fi board inside the Crossfire Micro TX? That is exactly right, License to Drive. That's what I'm hearing. Obviously, I'm not on the inside of any TBS conversations because Trappy doesn't like me. But when people did, like, LiveU FPV, if you don't know his channel, he does a lot of teardowns, a lot of component repair. When LiveU did a teardown of the Crossfire Micro module, that people noticed it had a 2.4 gig antenna in it, which could be Wi-Fi or it could be Bluetooth. And people said, well, wonder why that's there since it doesn't support Bluetooth. And the answer is that TBS anticipated they would do something like this in the future. So my understanding is that it's possible, I don't know if this is true, I can't confirm it because TBS won't talk to me, but it's possible that if you have a micro module, you don't have a screen, so you got to use that annoying Lua script to configure your micro module. But if you have a micro module and a Fusion, you can connect them up over Wi-Fi and use the Fusion as the interface to your micro module. That is really slick. That is really slick. So, sorry, I have a drinking problem. That's in case anybody out there's a youngster, that's a joke from the Airplane movie. The guy, the whole movie, he says, I have a drinking problem, and then he like spills drinks all over himself. I don't have a drinking problem. I just almost spilled my drink on myself. The drink today is Arnold Palmer, iced tea, and lemonade, in case, because I know you guys always want to know. Josh K asks, Joshua, is the Oscar Edition Phoenix flyable in low light? I see they listed as a great daytime camera, but is it still flyable in low light? I wonder if I could find... I actually did some flying of the Oscar camera last night in low sun condition. I wonder if I can find... I bet I didn't offload... No. I didn't offload the DVR from that. The short answer is I don't like it at all. Even with the sun low in the sky, the Oscar camera was really struggling with the exposure. It was blowing out. And there were certain angles. When I hit this angle and the sun was just right, I was just like, ah, and I had to go a different direction. So no, the Oscar camera is not great in low light, and it's not spectacular even in like golden hour. Oops. I still think it's the right camera for some people, but... it will not be my favorite camera for that and a few other reasons. All right, real quick, in case you're new here, this is what we're doing, and we're already doing it, so I mean, I think you get the gist, but this is my screen. Up here in the upper right, I got the chat. I'm watching you guys in the chat, and I'm checking for questions. Ooh, a Tiger Woods. Is that what it's called? Alex Dalton, I have put bourbon in an Arnold Palmer before. I thought I invented that. It is a really nice combination. The tea doesn't, yeah, it goes really well. Apparently it's called the Tiger Woods, but I didn't know that. I do like that combo. So I'll be answering your chats here. And if you want to make sure that your chat gets called out, because they go by pretty fast. I see you too, Hate Eternal Neighbor. If you want to make sure that I catch your question, then hit that. Where's the $? Why do I have no $? Am I not myself? I don't have a $. There's supposed to be a $sign here. Hit that $. You can get a super chat, and your question can get called out. Thank you, Edgardo German, for $5. I'll get to your chat in just a second. And here on the left, I've got my Discord server. These guys over here are my patrons. Patrons get access to the Discord server. If you want to become a patron, there's a link down in the video description, patreon.com. You can join my Patreon for as little as $2 a month or more if you feel like I earn it. And one of the advantages is that you get to be on my Discord server and ask me questions. Hello from Sweden. Hello, Mike Borgstrom. Whenever I meet somebody from Sweden, I tell them to say hello to David Vindestall from me. I just think it's a funny joke to imagine that all Swedes know David Vindestall permanently. Critical error. Am I not YouTube verified anymore? I don't know how, because I'm getting super chats. I'm getting super chats. How would I know if I was not verified anymore? I mean, how do I know if I'm even verified? Your channel, paid memberships, family, I don't know. Let's not solve that here on the chat, though. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be answering questions. So let's get to it. Carrie Young also doesn't see a dollar sign. I mean, the dollar sign would be how I would give you money if you were a tuner or a streamer. Let's see here. So SharkBite Frost, TBS Fusion. By the way, some of you are probably wondering, where's the TBS Fusion review I promised you last week? I've been talking to GC9N. He is the George Christ. I can't say his last. I don't know how to say his last name. George, the developer who worked on the user interface. And he said they were having a pretty significant user interface upgrade firmware. And he said I should probably wait on the review of the TBS Fusion until after this firmware update came out. So I'm holding on that. I also am waiting on the manual, which is coming from Brain 3D, because I want to make sure I got all my facts right when I do the review. So that is coming. Anyway. Mr. Sprinkles says, when I power on my Tiny Hawk Freestyle, the blue and red light won't stop flashing. Well, Mr. Sprinkles, if I remember correctly, flashing is the default state. They go solid when you put it in bind mode. But then when you arm, I think they go solid again. So I think they should stop flashing when you arm, right? Mr. Sprinkles? I'm not sure about that. Let's see here. Opinion on 3D printed frames. Marco Erzhevek. Thank you. That's a great question. Marco, 3D printed frames almost never work unless we're talking about very small, lightweight quads like a 2-inch or smaller. When people try to 3D print larger frames, the problem is that the material they're using usually is not rigid enough. So you get number one, it's not rigid. You get all kinds of vibrations and oscillation problems. If you make it rigid enough, which is hard to do, if you make it rigid enough, then it's super heavy and the quad flies like crap. Or it's brittle and it breaks. So obviously you wouldn't want to print using TPU, but if you print using a rigid material, then it's just brittle and it breaks. Don't waste your time with 3D printed quadcopter frames. I know it's tempting to try to just print one up. Carbon fiber is a very, very good material for quadcopter frames because of its combination of stiffness, strength, and lightweight. There are some 3D printed frames that are okay for very small quads, but as you get to the larger quads, the weight and size just overwhelm it. And as a demonstration of that, let me just show you. This is Andy Shen. Andy Shen is one of my favorite frame designers, and one reason is that he always posts these really detailed build logs of how he designs his frames. And this page that I'm showing you now, and which I pasted into the chat, is his attempt, notice it's titled, They Can't All Be Winners. It's his attempt to design a truly, fully 3D printed frame. And he tries a whole bunch of stuff. And bear in mind, he is not printing, he's using like exotic materials like carbon infused filament and I don't know what. He could not get it to work no matter what he did. He basically gave up. It never met his standards. So if Andy Shen can't design a viable, fully 3D printed frame, then probably neither can you. Okay? Well, he says sort of. Anyway, he had all kinds of problems and never really fully solved them. So. Alex Ms. Scale says, what about the bird bone frame? I don't know. Let's have a look. Oh. Bird bone frame. What is that? I mean, I'm always down to learn something new. Quadcopter frame. What do we got here? 3D printed bird bone. Helium 210. No. No. I mean, there it is. I mean, it's hard to say. Let's look on YouTube for a video of it working. No, not that YouTube. Can we... Come on. Hello? There you go. Bird bone frame. 3D printed bird bone. Well, I don't want to watch 5 minutes of it flying, but let's listen to this. Oh, no. No music, please. I want to hear the motors so I can hear if there's oscillations and stuff. That prop wash didn't look spectacular. I mean, it's hard to say. I'm not saying you can't 3D print a frame and get it in the air. The question is whether it will be, you know, what kind of results you'll get. And specifically how crashable it is. I mean, that's what it comes down to. Andy Shen struggled with oscillations. I think most 3D printed frames are going to struggle with oscillations. And then they're going to be heavier and they're going to crash poorly. That's my opinion. Take it for what it's worth. Alrighty. Wesley Chen. I did, Wesley Chen. So I got these RC and Power. I got these RC and Power motors. Are they the 4715s? I think they are. Yeah. I got these. So thank you. I have to say a big thank you, and I need to say it loud and clear because RC and Power graciously sent me a set of these 4715 360 kV Beast Class motors. I was not happy with how my Beast Class quad was flying, and I suspected from, I'm making a video about it, but from looking at the black box logs, I suspected it was a motor having problems. And I thought, well, why don't we just jump ship and try something completely different? Catalyst Machine Works says that these are currently their favorite Beast Class X-Class motors, but at $129 a pop, I was a little hesitant, and RC and Power graciously sent me a set, and I am thrilled with them. I said on my Facebook post, this is the first time I felt like truly confident in my Beast Class. So let's just for a second, let's just check this out for a second. This is how it's flying right now. And the bottom line is, I'm just giving it some twitches here just to see. The bottom line is it's flying like a freaking quad. I don't feel like if I do any abrupt moves, it's going to fall out of the air. It's flying pretty good. And now I can get started on tuning it and actually like trying to get it to fly great. But, I mean, you got to feel confident with a quad this big that it's not going to just fall out of the air on you. Like, yeah, where's that prop wash? These motors are really, I'm really pleased with these motors. They come down cool. The quad just flies fine. I was able to put my normal rates on it, which I had the rates way down because I didn't want to desync the motor by pushing it too hard. But look, I mean, I'm flying this thing. You know, whereas before I was really scared. With the Polar motors, I was just scared it was going to fall out of the air if I pushed it too hard. I just didn't feel confident, and now I do. So thank you to RC and Power. More about this later, but there you go. I mean, there you go. Super psyched about that. Okay. Yeah, RC and Power makes great, like, just mini quad motors, so why wouldn't they make good... Les Kira, is the XM Plus still a good receiver? Yeah, absolutely. XM Plus is a great receiver as long as you don't need telemetry. XM Plus does not support telemetry, but if you don't need telemetry, XM Plus is a very good receiver at a good price. Let's get some super chats out of the way. Got some super chats coming in, and a few people are wondering if the super chats are even coming in. They're like, oh, when are you going to get to my super chat? Don't worry, we'll get there. Edgardo German, thank you for $5. And then $5 more. Thank you. He asks, what is the AV audio output on the DJI goggles for? And is there any way to link a microphone to the DJI goggles so you can get audio? So the AV input on the DJI goggles is for an external source like a ground station. It allows you to use any analog source, but probably they want it there so you can feed signal from an analog ground station and you can still spectate other people who are flying analog. Of course, you could use it for any other AV input, but that's probably what it's for. And actually, I want to show you guys. This is cool. This is cool. I've got this coming in the mail. This is a 3D printed analog conversion kit for Can we get the picture, please? That's what people want to see. It's a 3D printed analog conversion kit for DJI goggles. It lets you stick a module in the goggle. And it basically, I'm sure you just solder a signal wire to the inside of the AV cable. Right, so that's going to be pretty interesting. And then regarding microphones, so right now the DJI Air unit does not send microphone audio back to the goggles, and you cannot listen, and that's something some people care about. We know the Air unit has a microphone on board, and certainly it should be possible to send audio over. I mean, we're sending high-definition video. Audio is just a fraction of the bandwidth. So it seems like with a firmware update, I would hope that DJI could make that happen, but for the time being, no, you can't get audio in your goggles, in your earpiece using DJI. Elvandor 47, thank you for $5 in the super chat. Do the major retailers cover a pad that comes off the board during soldering? I've been soldering for years and never had that happen. Elvandor, it depends on the retailer. It never hurts to ask. In my experience, user damage is less likely to be covered. However, they'll typically say, send me a picture of the board, and they'll look at your soldering, and if your solder is like super clean, they may give you the benefit of the doubt that you got a dud board. If you send them in a picture of the board and it's just like clearly you don't know what you're doing with a soldering iron, your joints look all craggy and gray and spatter everywhere, they may go, well, no, that one's on you. It never hurts to ask though. And sometimes, even if it's your fault, they'll take pity and they'll give you a discount on a replacement board just because they want to keep your business. So, Mike Zielinski, thanks for $2. Thanks for $2, Mike. Piratic. Hang on one second. One second, guys. When is the next DJI firmware update, Russell B? I don't know about that. Whenever they put it out, I don't know the answer. Eric says, my 3D printed quad worked fine. Hey, if you're happy, I'm happy. How do you know when a motor goes bad? It spins up when arming. Just because a motor spins when you arm doesn't mean it's not bad. A lot of times a damaged motor will spin at idle and maybe even spin up and down, but when it's in the air and it has to work really hard, then you get a death roll. If you're getting death rolls and the quad always rolls the same direction, that's probably a bad motor. Let's see here. What do you mean, Alex Dalton? Alex Dalton says, JB typing. Holy shit. What do you mean? Comrade says, why isn't anyone else up to par with DJI in the market? Aren't the other market leaders capable of the research to do that? No. Comrade, the short answer is no. DJI, I mean, I don't know the numbers, but DJI is a vastly bigger company than Fatshark. DJI has, how much how many DJI like Phantoms, Mavics, etc. are out there in the world? DJI has 100 times Fatshark's market cap. I mean, I don't know. I made that number up, but Fatshark sells to a market of a few 100,000. DJI sells to a market of millions, and they have a lot more money. On top of that, DJI, I have heard tell, they get support from the Chinese government. I don't know the details of that, but people say that they like government grants. I don't know. So they have DJI has a much. I heard rumors that like 500 engineers on staff. Fatshark doesn't have that much. They don't have that much money. They don't have that much resources. So the idea that Fatshark, and that's why in the beginning I was saying, I don't think Fatshark can afford to compete with DJI on DJI's own terms. Fatshark has to find ways to compete on things that DJI won't do because of who DJI is as a company, like making it compatible with existing goggles and supporting standard definition analog cameras. Those are things DJI won't do, and Fatshark can do. So, let's see here. How many words per minute? DJI FPV. Let's see here. How many words per minute can I type? Let's see here. Let's see. Ah! I'm choking. Damn it. There you go, 112 words per minute. I hope you enjoyed that. Briggs Games. Hey guys, I'm new to FPV. The thought of building a quad sounds scary, but I can build a PC. Any advice to help a newbie? Briggsy Games. I have a learn to build series where I walk you through the whole build, hold your hand the whole freaking way. I would suggest anybody starts there. I put a link to that in the video description. Crunked asks in the Discord, thank you for being a patron, Crunked. I'm running a white noise flight controller. I'm pretty sure the gyro's on the bottom of the board. Doesn't mean I need to change the orientation somewhere. Crunked, as long as you install the flight controller face up and facing forward, the board designer has taken into account the actual position and orientation of the chip on the board. It's the orientation of the board itself that you need to think about. And as long as you, unless you have changed the orientation of the board, then you don't need to do anything special. Sligot is showing is this a fully 3D printed frame? Wow. Sligot has a fully 3D printed frame in the Discord. That, I mean, I guess my question would be, like, how heavy is it and how does it crash? Oh, that's not fully 3D printed. I think you have carbon arms, but a 3D printed body anyway. Very interesting. Carbon arms, yeah. DJI versus TBS Unify Pro. I mean, it's a whole different ball game, isn't it? Oh, I got another piece of news. Somebody mentioned the Jumper T16 in the chat. I got another piece of news for you guys. So I have 3 complaints about the Jumper T16. One of them is that it didn't have Hall effect gimbals. Well, it does now. They added Hall effect gimbals. Yay. The second one is it doesn't have internal multi-protocol module. Now, I did a modification video showing how you could install the multi-protocol module inside the Jumper T16 and switch between the module bay and the internal module with a switch. But of course, people said, well, it's ready to accept an internal module. Can't you just put the module in there and wire it up properly? And the answer to that is yes, you can. And in fact, Jumper has reached out to me and told me they are going to be releasing a drop-in internal module. So what this means is you will have to open your Jumper up, but without having to pull out a soldering iron, without having to drill any holes or anything like I did, you'll be able to buy this internal board that replaces the dummy board that's inside there now. And it will enable you to you'll need to update firmware on the radio. You'll install this board. It's a plug-in replacement, and you'll be able to have an internal multi-protocol module. That is coming soon. They're sending me one to test and make a video about. So if you're waiting on the Jumper T16, or if you've already got the Jumper T16, you'll be able to buy this part and put it in your existing radio. So that's exciting. Why Tech Dude Official? Stop saying Tech Dude Official. You are out of here. You are out of here, my friend. TBS Fusion. TBS Fusion. TBS Fusion. Goodbye. Goodbye. Goodbye, my friend. Let's see. Got some more super chats coming in. Groom Lake Fisherman, thanks for $10 in the super chat. Looking at my R9M receiver on my quad, it has a mini plug and needs to be updated. Can I solder a plug onto the wiring of the receiver that will fit onto the back of the Tyrannus X9D Plus? You want to solder a plug onto the wiring of the receiver? I mean like a servo plug, right? You need an adapter. Did it not come with a flashing adapter? Because like the RXSR comes with a servo to RXSR plug. Did it not come with a plug that lets you do it? Let's look at Oscar Leong's site and see if he's no. You've got the R9M Slim though, right? You've got the Slim because it's got the plug. Well, let's check this guy's video out. That's not the Slim, though. Where's the Slim? How do you do the Slim? Oh, come on. No. That's not the Slim. Where's the Slim? Oh, he's going to do it this way. So that's very smart. He's doing it using these little clippy things you can get, so he doesn't have to solder. The short answer to your question is yes, you can solder on wires and solder on a plug. I would make an adapter. I'm really surprised it didn't come with an adapter, though, to be honest with you. Tom Rorty, thanks for $5. Mike Zielinski, I already got you. Thanks for $2. David Ayers, thanks for $5. No questions, just thanks. Von Zek in the Discord, thanks for being a patron, Von Zek. Are you doing the UAV tech filtering PID video you talked about on another live stream? Von Zek, yes, but the problem is I always have like 15 projects I'm working on at any given time. Like 3 of them I'm actively working on, and the other 12 I'm like are on the back burner. So it's tough. Mino FPV in the Discord. Thanks for being a patron, Mino FPV. JB, do you think the DJI FPV DVR could replace a GoPro for short, medium range flights and save weight? Yes, Mino FPV, I absolutely do. The DJI will probably not replace GoPro for like pros like Johnny FPV, and it's a joke. I always pick Johnny FPV because he is one of the people making like just the most awesome professional cinematic content, and he actually was part of the launch for I think he did a launch for DJI Osmo, and he did a launch for the DJI FPV system. So this idea, I keep saying, well, Johnny FPV will never switch to DJI. Well, he's actually sponsored by DJI, so maybe someday he will. But the GoPro, what I mean by that is that the GoPro is the gold standard for just top quality, cinematic, awesome content. Pros will keep flying GoPro. But the DJI Air Unit video is good. And where it loses out is really the ability to color grade it and tweak it. I really hope that DJI comes up with like a firmware update that will let you get like flat color profile out of the Air Unit, you know. But even it's so good knowing that if I lose my quad when I'm flying DJI, that the DVR video will be okay. Like I will be able to use it and show my awesome trick. Whereas with analog, it's like, nobody's really impressed with analog. So what I want to show you guys here is this. Hang on. This is some flying I did just yesterday. This is straight out of the goggle. Let me just skip ahead a little bit. Straight out of the goggle, right? Mute that. Oh, there's no audio anyway. Now, this is not like, it's not as good as a GoPro for sure. And it's not as good as the Air Unit. But it's not bad. You could totally use this, especially if you're just a hobbyist. Ooh, that was a good move. Look at that move. Hang on, go back. I so seldom impress myself with great moves. Whee! Oh, yeah. I mean, this is not bad. So could DJI replace GoPro? I mean, I have never put a GoPro on this particular quad that carries the DJI. I just use the footage out of the goggles or I use the Air Unit. I'm not sure if I were a professional going to do like a cinematic shoot, I probably would use a GoPro. But as a hobbyist, this is pretty freaking good. And this is out of the goggles. The Air Unit... Here's the same flight from the Air Unit. So, it's even better. I mean, this looks no worse than like a run cam. So. So this is not the DVR. This is actually from the Air Unit itself. This actually has sound, although I'm not playing the sound. That doesn't look bad. And I told Drew does some color grading on his GoPro videos. I said, Drew, you should do a tutorial where you show people how to color grade the DJI stuff to look as good as the GoPro stuff. Because I think with some tweaking, you could get it a lot closer. Anyway, there you go. Let's see here. Bearden85 in the Discord asks, any news about Orcas? No, I've heard nothing. They're still delayed on their power switch sourcing, as the last I heard. And when they said when they ship it, I'll get it. So here, speaking of power switches, look at this little guy. Actually, let me just put it up on, let me find the product page, because you can't see it. This is the Ready-Made RC Warranty Voider switch for Fatshark. What do you think of that? They call it the Warranty Voider because you have to desolder the barrel plug from your board, and you solder on this switched one, and then you have to go in with a Dremel and Dremel away the top cover. How do you like that, though? Let's see if we can get a closer view. This is what it looks like on the inside. And actually, I wondered about this because there's actually a lot of stress, I think. There's a lot of leverage on this switch. And I worry that it would stress the board when you turn them on and off. You can see they've reinforced it a little bit here with a little bit of hot glue. So, you know, be careful, I guess. But it's pretty freaking slick. That's what you're into. What do you think about, Wesley Chen asks, what do you think about braiding the motor cables when using a 4-in-1 ESC to keep the wires together? I I mean, I don't do it. I just think it adds weight. Not that it matters too much, but I mean, you use more wire to go the same distance. I don't think it really matters in terms of like noise or anything. Yeah, some people like to do it. They just think it looks good. Crunk says, why do you need to do a power mod for the Fusion, but you don't for the Rapid Fire? So let's break that down. With the TBS Fusion, if you have HDO goggles, you don't need to do a power mod. But if you are going to use the Wi-Fi function of the TBS Fusion to connect to your Crossfire module, then you do need to do the power mod. And I guess, wait, HDOs need, how do you even mod? Does the HDO even have those inductors? I remember seeing a table saying you need to do the power mod. And I guess the bottom line is that it pulls more power than the goggles can provide. The HDO goggles are designed to work with the Rapid Fire. And I guess they can't provide enough power? Let me see if I can find an answer about this. Maybe I should search for Fusion. Search this group, Fusion. Let's see if I can find that little decision tree she posted. Here it is. Yeah, this is Jennifer Menas from Brain3D is working on the documentation for the TBS Fusion, and this is a... Can I just have the image, please? Come on. There we go. Open image, and you have to 3 clicks to get to the image. So here is what you need to know about if you have HDOs, yes. If you want to use Wi-Fi, yes, you need external power. So I see it's not about the mod. You don't need to mod HDOs. In fact, it doesn't matter if you've modded the HDOs. If you're using Wi-Fi, you need the external power plug going over to the head tracker. If you have older goggles, you need to mod them or use the head tracker. So that's the breakdown. If you have modded goggles or HDOs, then you don't need the external power, but if you're using Wi-Fi, you do. Okay. Yeah, I hope that was clear. Just screenshot that. Nimbus FPV wants to know how you set up RSSI on the Nirvana radio with Crossfire. Nimbus FPV, the steps to do that are exactly the same as any other OpenTX radio. Crossfire RSSI, Joshua Bardwell. I have a video showing how to set it up. I want to link you to this video, Nimbus. I'm pasting that in the Discord right now for you. I'll paste it in the chat as well. The only difference is that the interface on the Nirvana is the touchscreen interface. So, like, the exact buttons aren't going to be where I show you, but the steps are exactly the same, and I hope you can follow them. Roland B says, any recommendations for a portable charging station or preferred ways to charge away from home? Roland B, I have done field charging in the past. My current MO is just to try to bring more charged packs, as opposed to try to bring, like, I have showed up at a Rotor Riot trip with 25 packs. I don't know about you, but I've never gone through 25 packs in a day of flying. If you're one of these guys, like I know guys who race, and they'll go out to practice, and they'll fly 300 packs in a day of practice. Just pack after pack after pack after pack after pack. If you're one of those guys, then you need a field charging station. But for a typical pilot, a hobbyist, a freestyle pilot, just buy more packs. Don't invest in, because field charging is a pain in the ass. The next best thing for field charging, in my opinion, is to charge off your car. Don't just charge off your car battery, because you'll run it down and kill it and damage it pretty quickly. But run your car. Idle your car. Okay, you're putting a little bit of time on the engine. Who cares? Idle your car. Charge that way. And that's the best thing to do. The next best thing, now it gets pretty iffy. Some people like to use a lead acid battery. You can get a lot of charges out of a like a deep cycle marine battery, but it's heavy as shit. They're so heavy they can weigh like 90 pounds. Sometimes you'll see people with a little rolling cart, and the rolling cart carries the lead acid battery. That's a great way to do it. You can also do it with LiPos. You can have like a 6,000 milliamp hour, a 10,000 milliamp hour 6S LiPo. But at that point, once you get there, you really just ought to buy more 1,300 packs and just charge them at home. That's what I think. Preston Millhouse says we have a small Honda generator to charge on the go. Preston, that's absolutely right. And I didn't think of that because a lot of, I don't know why I didn't think of that. I like that solution. Some people don't like, I think some people just don't like generators. They're like, oh, I don't want to carry a generator. But like, if you just go get like, I don't know, like a little 1,000-watt generator. Like this, I don't know if you necessarily want this exact one, but you can get just a little. Let me just get like 1,000-watt. 1,000 and no. How about $9.99 and under? How about that? Yeah, here you go. Like, look at this. No, that's a battery. I don't want a battery. I want a generator. 2,000 watts. Stop. Please. It shouldn't be this difficult. Where's just one of these little crappy 1,000-watt generators? Lithium battery. No. All right. Well, I'm not going to keep wasting your time looking for it. You can get these little, like, it's like $200 for a little 1,000-watt generator. And they're not too heavy, and they run for a couple hours. Here we go. This is the kind of thing I'm talking about. Maybe they just don't make the 1,000-watt ones anymore. This is 1,800 watts. How much is it? Yeah, but how much is it? Where's the price? All right, I don't know. Something like, I don't know. Anyway, you get the gist. And they can charge batteries all day. One of the reasons that you might not want to do that is they're loud as shit. You can get a little inverter generator, and they're much quieter, but they're also way more expensive. But I've seen, like at Harbor Freight, or just like these cheap Chinese 1,000-watt generators for $150, $200. And, I mean, that's a pretty good solution if you don't mind the noise. Harbor Freight has one. Why am I not looking at Harbor Freight? If you don't know about Harbor Freight is like Banggood, but it's a storefront. It's all the cheapest crap from China. And you can just walk into the store and walk out. It's dangerous. I mean, you gotta know what you're doing, or you're gonna get taken. Generator 1,000 watt. Where's the cheap one? Where's the cheap $99 one? Here you go. There you go. This is the one. This is the one I'm looking for. Yes. So look at this little guy. 900 watts, $124. Now, 900 watts doesn't do much, but it'll run a battery charger all freaking day. A little 900 watt generator. Fill it up with gas, run it for hours. How long does it run? 5-hour runtime at 50% capacity. So, you know, there you go. All right. Is it a 2-stroke? Oh, well, you may not want this one if it's a 2-stroke. That's hilarious. I missed that. Air-cooled 2-stroke. Oh, my God, it is. All right. Moving on. Yeah, Tumbleweed points out the Honda EU1000. The Honda EU1000 is a fantastic, it's just the best. It's quiet, it's clean, but it's expensive. Sliggett says, holy shit, I had no idea you could get generators so cheap. Hey, you learned something today. Yep. Joe Graves FPV, thanks for $5 in the super chats. Hey Joshua, what motor would you recommend on a Catalyst America running 4S? Joe Graves, there's no, that's like saying, what car should I buy? What shoes should I get? The answer depends on your priorities. Some people are going to want a sports car. Some people are going to want a family sedan. Some people are going to want a pickup truck. If you're running a Catalyst America, I'm going to assume you're doing freestyle. My favorite freestyle motors are big because they're torquey and they let you run high-pitched props without getting a lot of prop wash. I just put out a 2208 size motor that I'm a pretty big fan of. The real answer depends on your budget. If you're buying America, you probably are not on a low budget. That's not a cheap frame. I would say look at Zing motors. I like the Zing 2208 2450 kV. I have a 2208 2450 kV that I just released with Lumineer. Of course, that's my motor. I'm a big fan of it. If you don't want to go on the big motor hype train, it's not really a hype train. Nobody else, yeah. But certainly a 2207 2450 kV would be a great choice. I mean, there are various other directions you can go, but I don't think you can go wrong with like a 2207 2450. Joe Graves, if you were leaning toward my new 2208, the only thing I would say is you're going to want to pair that with a high-pitch prop, like a 50-50, a 50-48, a 51-45, something like that. A little bit of a bigger or more aggressive prop, or you could even go up to a 5.5 inch if you care to. I don't actually think the America will take 5.5 inch props without hitting the battery though. So those would all be good choices. Jeffro FPV says the Champion 1200 is the best 4-stroke under $200. I have a Champion generator that I got from Costco, and it's been very good to me. I'm a fan of Champion generators so far. I really wanted the Honda, but the Hondas are so damn expensive. So damn expensive. Hypermotor, I see your message about the care package. Glad you got it, man. Glad you got it. MC's Creation says, what about a huge 6S pack made with 18650s in an ammo can? MC's Creations, the 18650 field charging packs are totally viable as long as you have a source of cheap, like, aftermarket 18650s. If you are buying the 18650s off the shelf, I don't think you're going to come out ahead. I think you're going to pay a lot for the 18650s. You're going to work your ass off building the pack, soldering it up. It's going to be a pain in the ass. It's going to take a lot of time. And at that point, you may as well just buy, think about this. How much does a 10,000 milliamp hour 6S LiPo cost? Let's just look for something. Turnigy, high capacity, 10,000 milliamp hour 6S 12C LiPo. Okay. So that's $122. Now, how many 186 can you get to 10,000 milliamp hour 6S for under $122 buying 18650s? I think you're going to struggle to do that. So at the end, you're going to have to solder it up. It's going to be a huge pain in the ass. By the time, unless you have just a pile of 18650s that you got for free, don't waste your time with them. That's what I think. Fellas Boys wants to know, is DJI any good at range compared to Fatshark HD and Rapid Fire? So, Fatshark HD doesn't exist yet, Fellas Boys, so no one can answer that question. It's in beta, it's in testing. I will say this till the day I die. Until there is a product that is being sold to customers, you can't judge. Now, that doesn't mean that the data we get from these leaks and pre-release testing, it doesn't mean that's not useful. But when you ask questions like, which is better? Doesn't matter. Let me ask you this. Which is better? The 2019 Honda Civic or the 2021 Honda Civic? You can't buy the 2000. Doesn't exist yet. A product that doesn't exist yet can't be compared to a product that does exist. Oh, except in as much as you go, it seems like it'd be good. It seems like Bite Frost is going to be pretty good when it comes out, but it doesn't matter because it doesn't exist yet. Okay. Just buy a Tesla, says Rustbox. Yeah, get a Tesla. Lots of 18650s. Marcos Huerta points out 2 18650s are $30. Exactly, Marcos. A good quality 18650 cell is going to cost you $15. You can't get to 10,000 milliamp hour 6S unless you're buying cut rate cells, at which point that's pretty risky. Patraska Dorel Kodrut says, I get yaw spin of death after I changed the motor with some Zing 2306, an idea where to look for the issues. Anytime you're getting death rolls, especially if you just change the motors, you may have a bad motor or a bad ESC. If you just put new motors on, chances are the motors are fine, although it's not impossible that you got a bad one from the factory. It also may be that your old motors were smaller and less demanding on your ESCs, especially if you just switched to a higher kV or a bigger motor, your ESC may be the issue. If you're getting spin of death, what I do is I look at the DVR and I look for which arm drops. And the arm that drops, that's the motor or ESC that is failing. You can also get that from black box logs. If you know how to get black box logs, the black box log, the motor will go to 100%, and that's the motor that's having a problem. So that's the first step. Figure out the motor that's having the problem. Jerry Shackelford points out that the America is a racing frame, and I'm thinking of the Smooth Operator. Jerry, thank you for pointing that out. That's my bad. I would not say that my 2208 motor is the best motor for racing. Obviously, it's more about the pilot than it is the than the quad. And if you wanted to buy my motor, I certainly wouldn't discourage you. But for racing, you'll often see guys using higher kV motors. And just wanting more all-out speed. My motor, my 2208 motor especially, is tuned more for sort of smoothness and flexibility than for top speed. At 2400 kV, it might get outpaced by a smaller, higher kV motor, certainly in a straight. So, thank you for correcting that. Skillblock says I can't update my FreeSky X-Lite. OpenTX doesn't download. Skillblock, I'm trying to figure out if you can't get the firmware to download, or you can't download OpenTX Companion itself. Sliggett says he's torn between Zing motors and the Emax Ecos. I'd take the Zing motors myself. Zing are really solid motors. Emax Eco are good motors too, but if you're comparing the Emax Eco to the regular Zing motors, not the Zing E, then the Zing motor wins. It's also going to be more expensive. So Emax Eco is Emax's budget line, and Zing has a Zing E line that is more comparable to the Emax Eco. Crunked asks, is there any reason why you don't promote white noise synergy boards more? RX and VTX direct solder is so clean and so nice. I like white noise, and I like what the products he comes out with. I mean, I seldom just go out of my way to promote a specific product. If you look at my channel and ask when's the last time I actually promoted a flight controller, I mean, I tend to use things in builds, but not necessarily review them per se. I just don't find that to be the best use of your attention and my time. Rather than make a video and say, here's a flight controller, and just talk about the flight controller, I'll put it in a build, and then you get a build video and a review, and you can kind of see it in context. Now, for myself, I don't like direct soldering my receiver and my VTX, because what happens is then when anything breaks, you have to desolder it, and it's fairly difficult unless you have a hot air station to get the pins to release without damaging the board. So this is a pretty cool flight controller, and I'm showing it now just since you asked about it. You can see here we can solder a Crossfire here and a TBS Unify Pro 5V here, and you get your VTX, your flight controller, and your receiver all in one. Here we go. Here it is soldered up. All in one, ready to go. Very, very cool. Very, very cool situation. But the minute anything breaks, then you're in a bit of a pickle. I have used the white noise mounting board before, and I found that the PCB it used was too thin and it cracked, and I stopped using them. I'm sure that's not the case here for the flight controller. That was just the mounting board was a little bit of a throwaway situation, but for myself, yeah, maybe you'll see it in a build coming up, but yeah, it's just not where my head is at. Sliggett says, I'd love to see more motor reviews focus on durability. We can't afford to chuck fresh motors at builds all day. That is true. Unfortunately, it's very tough to test durability unless you've been flying a motor for weeks or months. And even then, it could just be you had a bad hit. So it's very, and again, you don't see me like review motors per se. You'll see me use them in builds. I only want to focus on a product when I feel confident that I can speak accurately about it. So, for example, I've started promoting the iFlight Zing motors as good all-round motors, but I only started doing that after months of sort of keeping my ear to the ground and hearing from people that they were having good experiences on them. Sean Hale says, any ETA on these Acrobrat motors that I'm... Yeah, good point. iFlight... Hang on. iFlight 1507. I have got them, and that means, yay, I will soon be... No. Motor. How about that? Soon. No, not the Brother Hobby Avenger. Let's just go to their website. I got them. It means soon I'll be starting my Acrobrat build. The iFlight 1507. Hello. I will be using the 4200 kV variant on it, as suggested by Aaron Ciotti FPV, who is actually in the chat right now. When I told Aaron I got these motors in the mail, he said, please tell me they're smooth. Please tell me they're smooth. And in fact, they seem smooth. They don't seem super notchy. Aaron's argument is that super notchy motors on micros make them have real problems with jello and vibration. So looking forward to putting these on an Acrobrat. That is coming. Ciotti, that's a good question, man. Let's talk about that. I wasn't sure if Ciotti was actually gonna come up and like do the build with me, or if he was just gonna like. He sounds like he wants to do the build with me, so we'll have to see whether I go to his house or he goes to mine. Is the new Hobbywing X-Rotor 60 amp ESC good for a first build? Asks Flister. Flister, I think that is the ESC that Alex Vanover has been testing for the last few months, and I recently just added it to my website, fpvknowitall.com. Here in the hello, come on, get there. Here in the ESC section, I just added the Hobbywing. There it is. And I added this Hobbywing exclusively because Vanover kept saying, this is the best ESC, this is the only ESC I want to run. And I was like, okay, well, I mean, like, I haven't tested it, but if Alex Vanover says he races it and it doesn't blow up, then I guess that deserves a spot on the list. So, yeah, that's a great ESC. I mean, 60 amp is more than most people need, but how much is it? That's the real question. How much is it? So, and it's $70. So if it's your first build, you may not want to spend $70 on an ESC. But yeah, this is a rock solid ESC based on Vanover's recommendation. So Manuel Garage says, I'm trying to set my buzzer up. Everything's right in Betaflight. Buzzer tab lights up, but the buzzer doesn't beep. It only beeps when I plug in the battery. Yeah, Manuel Garage. You have to plug in the battery for the buzzer to beep. The 5-volt regulator is not powered up when the battery is not plugged in, so the buzzer doesn't beep. And that's actually a good thing. Actually, I take that back. Some flight controllers do beep from USB, and it's freaking annoying. It drives me crazy. Because, I mean, if you've got a flight controller that doesn't beep on USB, I think that's a good thing. Congratulations. Because I find it so annoying when you plug in USB and the buzzer starts shouting at you. So I would say count yourself lucky. But the bottom line is, if your buzzer doesn't beep from USB, that's a decision that your board designer has made, and the only way to change that would be to get a new flight controller. Fellas Boys wants to know, can an X9D Plus SE work with all flight controllers? Fellas Boys, the question I think you mean to ask is, does it work with all receivers? A flight controller, it can work with whatever receiver you connect, but the X9D Plus SE has the new Access Protocol firmware, and that means that out of the box it supports D16 mode and the new Access mode, but it doesn't support the older D8 mode. That's relevant because a lot of micro quads, like the Emax Tiny Hawk Freestyle, for example, they come with a D8 receiver built in, and it's not trivial to add or change it to another receiver. If you have the X9D Plus SE, what you can do is you can get an aftermarket module that allows D8 support. Like some people are using the iRange X or the Jumper multi-protocol module, and then it will work with the older D8 protocol as well. Jason Griffiths says, when are you going to invite Seth FPV to your place to fly some X-Class, Beast-Class? I don't know. Tell him to get a hold of me. I'm game. Here's the thing. I don't leave the house very often. I'm usually just do my thing, and you have to kind of drag me out of the house. That's one of the reasons why I like being a part of Rotor Riot. Like I like being a part of the Rotor Riot show because it forces me to leave the house every now and then. And I have a good time when I get out. But if Seth FPV wants to come to my place and fly Beast Class, it sounds like a good deal to me. Yeah, come on over. Let's fly. Let's make some cool content. I'm falling behind on the super chats. Let me get those out of the way. Vasco Baloo, thanks for €2.22. No question. Thanks, Jeffro FPV, for $2.99. iFlight analog module adapter for DJI system. Jeffro FPV, I showed that earlier on the stream. I do have that on the way, and I'll be testing it out. Tomas Hurumpoli, thanks for $5. My friend is building a drone. He has the Lumineer Lux F7 Ultimate. The question is, can he bridge two 5-volt pads together to power a DJI Air unit? Tomas, it doesn't work like that, my friend. I'm sorry to say. If a flight controller says it has 5 volts at 1 amp output, that is 1 amp across all of the 5-volt pads. Not each pad is 5 volts. So you could bridge the 5-volt pads together, but your output limitation is the same. So what you're gonna need an external regulator is the bottom line. You're gonna need like a 2 amp 9-volt regulator that you install to power the DJI unit, or if you're running 4S or less, you could just run it off of VBAT. DJ Pop, thanks for €2. Just bought the full-size Crossfire. What should I know? Update the firmware. And I mean, like, there's a lot you should know, but I'm just trying to pick like 2 things for your super chat. And if you ever try to update the firmware on a receiver and it doesn't work, do this, DJ Pop. There's your little, have that in your back pocket. Okay. Am I going to do a review of the Frostbite system? David Gregorian. Yeah, I mean, my goal is to make content for you guys. And that's why sometimes I don't get in on early testing very often. I actually don't like it very much when vendors send me unfinished products and say, hey, do you want to test this out? And I worry I'm going to sound a little snobby, but I hope I don't come off that way. Sometimes I come off as snobby or stuck up. It's just how my face looks. Some people have, resting bitch face. I have resting better than you face. And I don't like it when vendors send me unfinished products, because my goal is to make content for you guys. And I put out 5, 6, sometimes 4, if I'm taking a break, videos a week. And that means like every day I get up and I say, what video am I going to make today? And then when I've finished making a video, then I have spare time to do anything else. So you're not really doing me a favor by sending me an unfinished product that I can't make a video about. I can't make a video about it because if it's bad, then you're going to say, oh, well, we're going to fix that. That's why we sent it to you. And I can't make a video about it because if it's good, we don't know if that's just because it's a hand-tuned prototype. So a lot of times when vendors send me prototypes, I just like, well, okay, thank you, but I have other stuff I need to do. I need to make content. So if Fatshark sends me a Bite Frost system, I'll test. I mean, you know I'm going to test it. But as far as making content about it, that's tougher, because whatever content I make about it, it's not finished. So Alex Suarez, I have not flown yet today. I had a very nice time yesterday. 2 of my friends came over. One of them is Bob Davis. He goes by Peckerwood FPV. He's a Lumineer sponsored pilot now. And another guy is a local Knoxville guy that I don't think any of you guys have ever heard of. And we just sat around on my porch and flew for like 3 hours. So I don't know if I'm flying today, but there you go. Seaweed asks, why did you stop your battery testing? Seaweed, it's a long, convoluted story. The answer is that I was unable to put the time into the battery testing that I really wanted to. And I have been trying for the last long time to get that outsourced and ramped up. Right now, there is a local guy here in Knoxville who is doing tests for me, and he is testing about 5 or 7. Stomach's rumbling. Sorry, guys. You're gonna hear that. You're possibly gonna hear that on the stream. So I guess I'm gonna have to go get a snack. He's doing about 5 to 10 batteries a month right now. And we're working on, and I said, okay, great, I can start publishing these results again. And then this other guy, who is a local Knoxville guy who helps me out, said, well, actually, I've been working on this database and website. And I said, can we just release a spreadsheet with the results in it? He's like, I'm so close to having this website ready. I'm like, fine. So the battery testing is actually happening right now. It's been happening for about the last 3 months. This other guy's doing it. And the results are being collected, and now the holdup is wanting to put this website. And honestly, if the website can't get finished in a very short period of time, I'm just going to put out a Google spreadsheet with the data. But the battery tests, I haven't forgotten about them. It's been a long and torturous path. There was a time a year and a half ago where I said, I am not able to keep up with this. The amount of time and effort to put into it, I need somebody else to be able to do it so they can just be rolling and just doing it 3-4 a week, whatever. And I just can't keep up with that. And then I've been trying ever since then to get somebody else to do it for me. And it's just very hard to find. I finally found somebody who could do it. So there you go. Wow. My stomach's really rumbling. All right, I'm going to pause. I'm going to pause the live stream, and I'm going to run up and get a snack so that you guys don't have to listen to my stomach rumble for the next 40 minutes. So I'm going to pause the live stream here, and I'll be back in a second. Okay, hold on. Okay. There are a few things on the internet that are really polarizing, and one of them is people eating on stream. There are some people who hate if you eat on stream. So I'm going to mute my mic. Now let me see if I can find some content to put on, so you guys don't just sit there and some people are begging for ASMR Dorito crunching. I don't know about that. Here's what we're going to do while I eat some Doritos. And in case anybody's confused, I didn't just suddenly decide to eat Doritos in the middle of the stream. Most days I'll just get up, I'll have a cup of coffee. I often skip breakfast. And so then after the stream, I'll get some food. But my stomach was really rumbling, and I'm guessing that you guys could hear it. So I was like, okay, let's take care of that. Let's do this. This is me flying Emu Flight. Yes, I'm working on a video comparing Betaflight to Emu Flight. In case you don't know, Emu Flight is a fork of Betaflight that takes the IMUF filtering from HelioSpring and puts it into a Betaflight flight controller. And it's really just some freestyle. But I'm going to slap this up so that you guys can see it. This is Emu Flight. So did you hear any of that? Here we go. This is here, and this one, the transmitter. Let's see if I smoke a motor. See how it flies. That little pause there is because I had a bug on my hand. I had to pause to get the bug off my hand. And we're back. And we're back. No more Dorito eating. I'll leave the Doritos bag back there. This show's sponsored by Doritos. What do you guys think of that? I saw some people commenting that there was any prop wash at all. Yeah, that's true. The if you were expecting Emu Flight, or if you expect anything to be just a magic bullet that makes perfect, no prop wash, etc., you're probably going to be disappointed. To be fair, I haven't taken this stuff to the Emu Flight devs to say, what can we do to make this better? I didn't tune at all. I just flashed Emu Flight and went and flew. I feel like that's a fair thing to do because that's what everyone is going to do the first time they put Emu Flight on their quad. They're going to flash it and they're just going to go see how it flies. And then they're going to tune from there. So the fact that this isn't perfect, that's not really a condemnation of Emu Flight. For perspective, let's look at this. Is Betaflight 4. This is 4.0 on default settings. Oh no! What? Why? No, not that. Not that one. Don't do. This is, and we're not going to watch the whole flight because it's like 5 minutes, so I don't want to. But just for perspective, here's what Betaflight 4.0 looks like on default settings. So Betaflight default, Emu Flight default. See, it's a fair comparison. First of all, I have to get in the air. There we go. Okay, here we go. The same quad, Betaflight versus Emu Flight. So, also not perfect. Also not perfect, right? Anyway, so look forward to that. Control asked, what quad is that? It seems like it's flying pretty good. Yeah, this is the Stingy build, the Stinger Swarm build. I have a build series and a parts list for this exact build on my channel. You can look for that. And I feel like I cheated a little bit because when I tuned this, it flies really good and very smooth and very, very clean. So I feel like picking a great flying build to then compare Betaflight versus Emu Flight. It would be better to do it with like a really torn up build, but that just happens to be the one I was flying today. Thank you to everybody who's pointing out the super chat from Evil FPV Johnson. I haven't missed it. I just haven't gotten to it yet. Sometimes I go a little while without getting my super chats, but let's take care of that so everybody feels good. Evil FPV Johnson, thank you for $5. I have a couple questions about the RNM kit I got. Should I update? Do I want Flex? Do I want F-Port? It's the Holybro F4 V2 AIO. If you have the Holybro F4, then there is not as compelling a case for F-Port. The reason is that F-Port lets you have telemetry and control, S-Bus, over a single wire. But with an F4 processor, you don't gain very much because the F4 will already have a dedicated UART with an inverter on it for SmartPort and a dedicated UART with an inverter on it for S-Bus. And because those pads have inverters on them, you can't really use them for anything else. So on an F4 processor, when you go from S-Bus to F-Port, you have an unused pad on your flight controller, and in many cases, doesn't really get you anything. The big advantage of F-Port is also that F-Port automatically carries RSSI data, which is nice because usually if you want to get RSSI data into the flight controller, then you have to dedicate an aux channel to it, and you give up one of your aux channels. So going to F-Port does have that advantage and maybe is worth the hassle. There's no downside to F-Port except that it's a little bit of a pain in the butt to flash the firmware. Do you want Flex? Folks who fly R9, you tell me. The advantage of Flex is that it can do both EU and FCC in one firmware, but since very few of us are traveling to the EU with our gear, or vice versa, does it really matter? Here's the thing I would say about R9. If you find, Big Data Pimp says the R9M Flex firmware is the best one for sure. Okay, Yes, Flex says Hypermotor. Okay, so the guys in chat are saying, yes, get the Flex firmware. Here's the thing, though. Find a firmware that works for you. Put the firmware on the SD card. Flash your module and flash all your receivers with that exact firmware and stick to it. Because I think that the people who are having, like, some people will say, oh, I had a fail-safe at 50 feet. What happened? The people who have problems with R9, I think they are not having matched firmware on the receiver and the module. This is one of the advantages of Crossfire, is that it won't let you bind. The receiver will not bind if they don't have matching firmware. And so if you just, and you need to update all of your receivers when they come from the factory. Don't just put it in the quad and go fly. Every single R9 receiver you get, have that firmware on your SD card in your transmitter, and before you install it in the quad, plug it into the transmitter, update the firmware, and that way you know for sure that all your quads and all your receivers have the matching firmware. 661 FPV wants to know, why use telemetry at all if we have an OSD? That's a valid point, and some people do fly without telemetry. One of the advantages of telemetry is that you can use Lua scripts, and Lua scripts let you change settings without having to put your goggles on. Like, for example, if I need to tweak the PIDs or the rates on my quad, I can put my goggles on my face, get my sticks out, and go left, left, up, down, left, up, down, left, right. Or I can just take my radio and use the buttons, and I find the Lua script to be, the buttons to be easier. Especially because I have glasses, putting my goggles on is not as seamless as if I didn't have glasses. The other advantage of telemetry is your telemetry data is logged in. You can actually log it to your SD card on your Tyrannus. So if you want to do that. And you can have call-outs on your Tyrannus. Sometimes you'll miss that your battery voltage is low, and if your Tyrannus says low voltage, then it'll call you back. You know, you're so busy ripping balls that you don't notice. So. Yep. Calabrese 221. We talked about Bite Frost earlier in the stream, and I don't want to just rehash all that. So you can go back in the DVR and check that. But I do see your message. What does SmartPort actually do? Says Sir Capsalot. SmartPort carries telemetry data. So data like battery voltage. It carries telemetry data back to the transmitter. Essentially, all of the data from the sensors on the flight controller, the accelerometer, the gyro, the GPS, the battery voltage, the amps, the milliamp hours, all that data comes back to the transmitter. And this was a bigger deal before we had OSDs, because you could actually buy a little screen that you attach to your transmitter that shows this telemetry data. Nowadays, we can just look at it on the screen of the transmitter itself. Pardon me. Sweetwater IPA. Nowadays, with an OSD, telemetry is less compelling, but I still like to have it. Let me keep getting these super chats out of the way real quick. Private Island FPV, thanks for $5 Canadian. Been a patron for a year, but I like watching here. Checking out Discord today. Staying high there, too. Thank you, Private Island FPV, for the support. Craig Haig, thanks for $2. $5 from Message Retracted. And we're now caught up on the super chats. I got to tell you guys, the biggest reason I use telemetry, 2 reasons I use telemetry. Really, this is it. One is battery voltage, because the ability to look down at the Tyrannus real quick and check your battery voltage without having to put your goggles on. Literally, the Tyrannus is the most complicated cell checker in the world. I'll finish a flight, I'll lift my goggles up, I'll put my glasses on, and I'll go, oh, what's my battery at? And instead of putting my goggles back on to check the battery voltage, I just glance down at the Tyrannus, and it's right there in the screen. The other thing I like for telemetry is Lua scripts, the ability to change rates, PIDs, VTX settings from the Tyrannus. And you need telemetry for that. Sean Hales wants to know, can you use your controller for black box recordings? Not really, Sean. You can log all that data via the controller, but the problem is that the update frequency is very slow. It's like once per second or something. It's not very fast, and it's not really useful in that case. Yeah, so Evil FPV Johnson, as a beginner doing your first build, my suggestion would be to not use F-port. However, since you're going to probably have to flash the receivers anyway, because you want the flex firmware, you may as well flash F-port. If you're going to have to flash them anyway, you may as well flash F-port. Is there a way to change the USB port on the Tyrannus to make it a USB-C? King FPV, I mean, with a soldering iron, a hot air station, and enough ingenuity, maybe, but no, not really. This is the Sweetwater IPA, not the Summer Shandy. Let's see here. Do I have a JB F7? If not, are you going to make one? Smertrius. Quick update. You may know I have the JB F4 flight controller. It's been out for a few years. We've been working on the next generation of it. The next generation of the JB flight controller will be an F4 and F7. And it's actually the exact same pad layout for both. We just changed the processor, and one's going to be like $5 more expensive. I don't know how much. The F7 will be a little more expensive. So there's going to be, it's going to save me a lot of work on the manual because I'll only have to make one manual for both. The status of the project is that just this week, we got the final feedback from the testers. We gave the final feedback to the manufacturer, and now it is up to basically Race Day Quads to pull the trigger on ordering them. So hopefully they will be out soon, but I couldn't say how soon. These things always take way longer than I thought. But basically, I've given the green light that it's ready to go in terms of functionality and so forth. So I guess I better get started working on the manual. Ouch. No floating gyro, Craft King. Soft mounting the board. Floating gyro, I think soft mounting the board is a better idea than floating the gyro in many cases. For example, I have right here, this is the new version of the Kakute V7. I'm going to hold it up in front of the camera, but it doesn't matter because it's not focused and you guys won't be able to see it anyway. This is the Kakute F7, and they've just sort of updated the ribbon cable to be more durable and out of the way. And this is a flight controller with a floating gyro. The gyro is mounted on foam, and that's cool, and it helps soft mount the gyro from vibrations. But I think that in a lot of cases, just soft mounting the flight controller works just as well and is a little bit... The problem is that if anything is touching this gyro, like a wire's bumping up against it, the quad flips out. And that's too bad. So... Zach King wants to know the best sub $200 freestyle quad. Sub $200. I think a really, really excellent ready to fly right now. I'm going to paste a link in the chat for you. And yes, it's an affiliate link because of course it is. Because that's how I pay the bills. One of the ways I pay the bills. I think one of the best ready to flies right now is probably the iFlight Nazgul 5. And I say probably because I have one in the mail, but I haven't gotten it yet. But just looking at the parts and knowing iFlight as a manufacturer, I feel like, and also I have to confess, watching other people's reviews, I do watch other people's reviews. I have to say, it looks really freaking good at a price of $200. Everybody in the world who is going to buy an Eachine Wizard should buy this instead, except it's more expensive, so that's why they don't buy it. But if you have a $200 budget, this looks like a hell of a good deal. And I think it's going to be... The place where... So we know iFlight makes great motors. iFlight's frames, some of them are great, some of them are terrible. So I think the frame... But I mean, how far wrong could you go with this frame? Like, they're not pushing any boundaries with this frame, right? It's a pretty standard frame, so like how badly could they have screwed it up? So this is a pretty good freaking ready to fly. Now the real question you asked was, should I build it myself? And here's what I say. Unless you are incredibly wealthy, you cannot afford to just buy ready to flies. And you cannot afford to pay other people to repair your quads for you. And unlike like with a DJI Phantom, where the expectation is that you will never crash it. And if you do crash it, once in a blue moon, you send it off to DJI to get it repaired. With FPV racing quads, freestyle quads, the expectation is that you will crash it all the time. So you will need to be able to repair it. So the minute that you buy the Nazgul, the very next thing you should do is you should buy parts to start your own build. If you buy a ready to fly, you need to start working on your build the very next day. And for the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, while you're enjoying your ready to fly, you're working on your build. Because eventually you're going to crash that ready to fly, you're going to break it, and then you're not going to know what to do with it. Whereas when you build it from scratch, then when it breaks, you'll know how to fix it. So DJ Pop says the Wizard is $20 less. Yeah, DJ Pop, but the Wizard comes with a transmitter. The Wizard comes with a transmitter, a battery, props, and a battery charger, whereas the Nazgul just comes with the Nazgul. So now you got to spend another $70, $90 on a transmitter, etc. So don't get me wrong. That's money well spent. The only person who should buy an Eachine Wizard is the person who absolutely cannot afford to spend $1 more. Anything else you would get would be better than a Wizard X220. The X220 HV, not bad, but the X220 is so bottom of the barrel. The only thing the X220 has going for it is its price. How about the Kopis 2? I hate to say this, Leudis Sevirskas. I like the Kopis 2 a lot, and I really liked the Kopis 2 Rotor Riot Edition, although they don't make it anymore because the Stingy motor isn't made anymore. I think the Kopis 2, the frame, is maybe not the best choice for a straight beginner. How much is the Kopis 2? Let's look it up. Capability-wise, the Kopis 2 is very good compared to the Nazgul. I think they stack up, not Kopis 21. I think they stack, no, come on. I think they stack up pretty comparably, capability-wise. Where's the Kopis 2? There it is, Kopis 2. Now, the Kopis 2 is $300. It has much more premium gear on it. Like, the motors are T-Motor F60 motors. The Holybro flight controller compared to the iFlight flight controller, I don't know. That's hard to judge. The real weakness of the Kopis 2, I think, is the frame. The frame has like a foam. Has it got, this doesn't look like it has the foam core anymore. Did they switch away from the foam core? Are you for real? That doesn't look like, that just looks like regular carbon. Did Holybro switch? Does anybody know in the chat? Did Holybro switch away from the foam core? Damn. That's always been the weakness of the Holybro for me. Is the arms break a little easier than you might prefer. It's hard to imagine that even if you stipulate that the Holybro is better, it's hard to imagine that it is $100 better than the Nazgul. I think the Nazgul is a real disruptor in this market. So there we go. Jose Navarro, thanks for $5 in the super chat. I purchased a FreeSky Lite module a year ago. I would like to use it and spend my limited time installing them. Do you recommend it? Is it an upgrade? I don't understand your question, Jose Navarro. I'm very sorry. I'll try to keep an eye out for you in the chat, or as always, you're welcome to just message me your question, like offline. But you purchased the Lite module a year ago. What module? The Lite module. I'm sorry, I don't understand, Jose. Message me offline, Jose. Thank you for $5. Evil FPV Johnson. So why? Evil FPV asks, so why do I want Flex? And must I rebind the receiver? The big thing about Flex, there's two things about Flex firmware that make it stand out. One is you can switch regions between EU and FCC without having to reflash firmware. Now, that doesn't matter for most of us. because we're not going to switch regions very often, but you can. The other big advantage of the Flex firmware is you can change the output power without rebinding the receiver. So with the original firmware, if you change from 10 milliwatts to 100 milliwatts, you got to rebind the receiver, and the receiver won't to take that change. With the Flex firmware, you can change the output power as much as you want. I don't change the output power very often. Personally, I run my Crossfire at 250 milliwatts and just leave it there. But, for example, if you go to an event like International Open, they're going to want you to take your output power way down. And if you were flying close range and wanted longer battery life, you could take your output power down. That's the other big advantage. The real thing with FrSky firmware, in my opinion, is some FrSky firmware seems to have issues and others doesn't. Once you find a version of the R9 firmware that works for you, I say stick with it. Unless there's something really compelling in the new firmware. If it's reliable and you're not having fail-safes, don't change. But the big thing about the Flex firmware is the ability to change region and ability to change output power without rebinding the receiver. FPV Arborist has got a chipmunk chirping sound when hovering. FPV Arborist, send me a video of it. Send me a link to a video. I want to hear it. Somebody asked in the chat, I saw this a little while back and I made a note of it. I don't remember who it was who asked it. They said, is the Mr. Steel ready to fly worth buying? Steel Alien. Mr. Steel occasionally sells pre-built. Does he sell them on eBay? Where does he sell them? He occasionally sells pre-built. I can't find one. He'll build you, Mr. Steel himself, with his own glorious hands, will build you an alien exactly like he flies, and he'll sell them on eBay. Now, let's go to the chat. How much does he sell them for? Somebody's saying it's on Team Black Sheep's site. How much does he sell them for? Some people know the answer. I hear $750. Where's Ready to Flies? Let's see if I can find it. Search. Let's see here. I still can't find the Ready to Fly. Sorry. He sells them for $1,100. Now, let me be clear. I will never hate on somebody for making however much money they can. If there is somebody out there who is happy to spend $1,100 on a Mr. Steel alien, then I don't have any grudge against Steel for taking their money. If you want to spend money on a product and someone else is happy to take your money, it's like sex. If two people want to do something in the bedroom, that's their business, and I don't want to know anything about it. I don't need to know. I don't care. That's between them. And if you and Steele want to get together and you give him $1,100 and he gives you a quad, more power to him. Hey, if he could sell him for $1,500, more power to him. Hey, listen, we all got to make the money. We all got to get paid. We all got to pay the rent. However you do it, that's your business. But $1,100. Now, I did the math. Now, let's start. KISS parts are not cheap. This is a KISS flight controller, KISS ESCs. They're not cheap. So I can't remember the number, but I estimated once upon a time that there's about $600, $650 of parts at retail. Now, I don't think he's buying them at retail, so he's making a little bit. I would guess that he's getting them cheaper than retail, but that's either way. That's fine. So his labor is $1,100 minus $650. 400, 750, 850, 950, 1050, $450. It's pretty freaking good. Now, here's a real question. Is it the best flying quad you've ever flown? I have yet to fly one, but I will tell you that Bob Davis, the guy Peckerwood FPV, who I mentioned earlier in the video, he has purchased them and he has flown them. And he says, I said, will you let me fly it? And he's like, well, no, I've crashed the crap out of it. Now it doesn't fly so good. But he says when he got it, it was the best flying quad he had ever flown. Oh, and Crunked in the chat. Also, apparently, Crunked bought one. Crunked says he's flown one of the Mr. Steel aliens, and it's the best flying quad he's ever flown. So the story gets more interesting because you hear that Steel is selling an alien for $1,100, and you think, well, that's just because his name is on it. But and that's true to some degree. But apparently, Crunked has 4. You have 4. Okay, Crunked is doing okay in life. Crunked, you built. Okay, Crunked built them all himself. Steel didn't build them for him. Okay. He says it's the best flying quad. So $1,100 for the best flying quad you've ever flown. Well, maybe $650 and you build it yourself. Anyway. Let's see here. Jake H wants to know if money is no object, would you convert all your quads to the DJI system? Okay, so hang on, Jake. Let me finish up that thought train. Is the Mr. Steel alien worth the money? Yes, but no. There is no freaking way I would pay $1,100 for $650 in product. I don't care. There's no way. I would build it myself, right? But a lot of people, that's not an option. And a lot of people just want to pay for something that he built himself and they know is good. And at that point, if you got the money for it, go for it. I mean, have you ever flown the best flying quad in the world? Well, if you spend $1,100 on a Mr. Steel alien, you probably are getting that. And maybe that experience is worth it to you. Okay. If money was no object, would I switch all my quads over to the DJI system? Here's what I would say. There's 2 things. There's 2 big things missing from the DJI system right now. One is the social experience of FPV. If you fly only by yourself, then you don't know about this. When I go out with like the Rotor Riot guys and we're all out there, it's so fun because you could watch Ladrib or you could watch Cricket FPV or Vortex fly on their YouTube channel. But you could just tune in to their goggles and watch their feed. And in real time, be like, oh, Cricket's working on this gap. And you could watch him crash and you could watch him miss the approach and go around and do it again. And you're all having fun. And you're there and you're like, oh, you got it. Yeah. Or whatever. You don't get that with DJI because if you're using the DJI system, no one else can watch you. Well, at Rotor Riot, we all have the DJI system now. But at a typical event, if you have the DJI system, no one else can watch you. And unless you have a ground station, you can't watch anybody else. And I flew my DJI quad at a Rotor Riot event where everybody else was flying analog. And I just kind of felt like I was off in the corner somewhere by myself. And I was like, forget that. I put my goggles back on and I got back in the crowd. If someday everybody switches to DJI, then that won't happen, but that's not likely. And that social aspect is missing. The other thing that would stop me from switching to DJI wholly is that the OSD isn't there. Betaflight OSD isn't there. And that's more than just a convenience thing. I talked to somebody this week who could not get his GPS rescue working correctly. And the Betaflight OSD has information about GPS rescue. It has direction home, etc. Well, he couldn't. There's troubleshooting information that is in the OSD that you can't get when you're using DJI. Now, Preston Garrison from Flight 1 said that he was in China this week talking to DJI about this problem, and he said they're going to solve it. He said, we'll see if it's true, but he said that DJI was going to get the Betaflight OSD in the goggles, and that'll solve that problem. But you still have the social problem, and I'm not sure how to address that. Evan Molina says, what about the range latency effect? No. The latency is a non-issue. I don't know what you've heard. I can tell you that latency, every so often, it'll change from like 25 milliseconds to like 40 milliseconds, and there'll be a slight glitch where you'll have to kind of readjust your fingers. But nothing is perfect. Analog's not perfect. Everybody says, oh, the latency changes. Yeah, but if I fly into a bando and I get static and I crash, well, what about that? So yeah, the latency is not absolutely consistent, but you can still fly it. Nothing's perfect. This is not an issue. So I would not switch all my quads to DJI. I had this right now, my Beast Class build. I thought about putting DJI on my Beast Class build because it's like it cares about the weight. And I realized that why do you have a Beast Class quad? It's not because you like to fly it. Because if I want to fly for fun, I'm going to put a $200 5-inch in the air, not a $1,300 Beast Class. And I realized that I will not, the Beast Class is the last build I'll put DJI on because I want to take the Beast Class out to International Open or Rotor Riot Rampage and fly it so you guys can see it in the air and enjoy it. And if I put DJI on it, a lot of you won't be able to do that. So. Evil FPV wants to know, what about bleeding on other people? Evil FPV, it's no different than if you have analog. If you have analog and you power up while somebody's on your channel, you'll trash them. Well, it's the same deal with DJI. Just don't be on their channel and you're fine. Pardon me. Pardon me for the burp. Wow. 507RC says Beast Class is big enough to have both systems on it. Yes, but no, 507. You really don't want to have analog and DJI on the same quad. I tried that. And even when DJI was on race 8 and analog was on race 1, it interfered and it was no good. Christian Bianchini wants to know about TBS Fusion. Look, I'm hoping that TBS Fusion manual will come out and I'll be able to put my review out this week. I'm waiting for the manual to come out on TBS Fusion. Here's the thing. Let me talk about DJI a little bit more because I see Andrew Royantara says DJI Digital FPV is the reason I come back to quads after 6 months absent. I have been shocked at the splash that DJI has made. When it first came out, I thought a few pros are going to get this, but market adoption is going to be very slow. I was at a weekend fly-in at a park here in Knoxville, and one guy had the DJI system. Not a YouTuber, not a sponsored reviewer, just a dude who spent $1,000 on the DJI system because he wanted it. And I have been shocked by the number of people who are coming to FPV, either because they are DJI users, they have a Mavic or a Phantom, and they're like, DJI's getting into FPV, let's see what the deal is, this is pretty cool. Or because they got out of FPV for whatever reason, and the ability to fly in HD has brought them back. There's no question in my mind that DJI, the existence of the DJI FPV system, is growing the FPV market way more than I thought it would. So, yeah. I'm happy about that. Show us a preview of the Fusion review, says INFPV. INFPV, I showed in a previous live stream, I showed a test of the Fusion. I'll show it again. We're almost done with the stream. And by the way, Ciati FPV, Ciati, are you going to be streaming? He's in the chat right now, isn't he? Yep. Ciati is going to start streaming in like 1 minute. I'm not going to overlap Ciati's stream by showing this, but TBS Fusion preview was in a previous live stream. I'm going to wrap up. Ciati FPV, if you are looking for more live streaming Q&A content, Ciati FPV is posting his link in the chat. His live stream link is in the chat. He is going to be streaming for another couple hours. Ciati is a super knowledgeable guy. He's not too bad to look at either. And his focus is, I think it's not fair to say he focuses exclusively on micros, but he certainly knows a lot about micros. Any questions you have about micros? I do need, before I go, Jose Navarro, thank you for $10 in the super chat. He says, steel is hitting a weird and niche market. Disposable income, but limited knowledge on fast premium quads. But how long till you crash it? You are correct, Jose Navarro. And since you gave me $10 in the super chat, I don't want to overlook you. If you spend $1,100 on a steel alien today, you will crash it and break it, and it will no longer be the best flying quad in the world. So that is the number one reason not to spend $1,100 on a steel quad, unless you just want to, unless that's just what you want to do, in which case it's your money and more power to you. Okay, we're going to wrap up the stream. Thank you guys so much for coming out. I will be back 8 p.m. tomorrow, probably. We'll see. 8 p.m. tomorrow is my normal streaming time. And check out Ciati FPV. He's going to be streaming for the next next little bit. He's posting the link in the chat. His channel is Ciati FPV, Ciotti. Enjoy. See you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.